Hey there, people! I am Truce, and I am back from my existence as a zombie to redesign some characters again that I've drawn for like over 4 years, whatever. Yeah. So the video last week I was supposed to do was supposed to be a continuation of a character design challenge I've been working on before Art Fight, but my health issues destroyed me, and I lost 2 weeks of my life, and so here we are. I'm sure I'll complain more about that later, but let's just get to the point of this video. So, for Art Fight this year, I've added references for 4 of 5 characters that I messed around with a little bit of a storyline with for since 2020? Not 2020, 2022. All the story is actually planned out, so I can ramble about it for a while. So if that's your thing, just sit back and enjoy me rambling as I prep for Art Fight. I'll do a little synopsis of the story idea. So for the absolute basics, let's get into that. So we got 5 people get snowed in a house somewhere in American South countryside, and the whole place starts to get a little bit weird, for want of a better word. The world itself is somewhat inspired by stories like Annihilation, House of Leaves, and literally anything created by Jack Stauber, but the whole point of the story is just character explorations rather than that world itself. As the story goes on, the characters begin to change to something less and less human. As the world gets weirder, they get weirder too. Each of the characters will have 2 designs, their normal human designs and then their creature slash monster design. A big focus, I will say, is that none of these characters are necessarily good people. All of their actions are meant to be fundamentally selfish in one way or in another, and I want to kind of put that a bit into especially their monster-ish creature designs. So, out of all the characters I designed way too much, the one you're watching right now is Wendell, or Wendell Price, that's his name. For transparency's sake, I finished this little reference early January this year, but whatever. Out of all the characters I redesigned, his design stays the most consistent, especially his face shape. I also always draw him kind of sad. He's always pouting, and it's kind of just his resting face. It became an inside joke with my good friends, so yeah. I didn't feel like I actually had to redesign this one like I did the others from what I did in January, so that's what you're watching. Let's do a little bit of the whole story background through him. So, Wendell is the youngest of all the characters, recently turned 19. He was a teenage runaway, barely making it along through life without a home. At the time of the story, he is basically on his last leg. He's been trying to find a way to get any sort of work while avoiding his family, who he doesn't even know if they're looking for him or not. At the same time, there's an old man named Abe Valencia, living a little off this patch of woods, very secluded. His granddaughters are forcing him to hire a housekeeper because he's starting to be less and less able to actually take care of himself and the house. He finds this incredibly demeaning, and he immediately fires the housekeeper his granddaughter Chrisley finds for him, and he hires Wendell instead. Basically just picks this guy off the street, and it's largely just to spite his granddaughter Chrisley, but either way, no matter what the actual reason is for his hiring, this is basically a godsend for Wendell. After a few weeks, Abe realizes this guy does not actually have a home or a place to stay, so he begins to even offer him room and board for a short while. It all kind of goes well until Chrisley, she tries to check in with the housekeeper she hired, and she realizes what her grandfather did, and she forces her and her twin Paula to drive down to the house. As soon as she gets there, she sees Wendell and immediately fires him. Abe doesn't really do anything about that. It's about to snow, but Wendell just kind of walks out and wanders off into the woods. Since this was his for him, this felt like his last chance, even if it wasn't, and he kind of starts to give up on everything. But as the snow begins to fall, he kind of just finds some random dude, being the last character in the story, Callum, collapsed in the snow. Not trusting himself to be able to make it back to the road and into town, he takes him back to the house just in time for the snowstorm to pick up intensely. It's at the point that all of these 5 characters get snowed in. So yeah, I said earlier that none of the characters are necessarily good people, but Wendell here is especially not a bad person either. All of his actions throughout the story are either a desperate attempt at survival or for making up for his past actions. Before he had to run away, this dude was a cruel person. Basically, growing up, he was a bully who inadvertently or on purpose caused real harm to other people, including and especially his little brother, whose name is Henry. He doesn't actually know if Henry's alive or anything because of an accident that happens that causes him to run away. So, yeah, side note, this is random and a major spoiler for the Amazing Digital Circus finale, so skip it. I'm gonna say a 3, 2, 1. His backstory kind of reminds me of Jax's, but it's not exactly the same. And I've had it planned out for years, so I'm still gonna stick with it. Even though there are some similarities in what these people have had happen to them, it's not the same situation, and especially in the person that Wendell becomes, he is very different to that character of Jax, but I just want to put that out there as something funny I noticed. Anyways, Wendell does do things that fundamentally sabotage the other characters, but all of this is because he will do anything in order to not get found out for the quote-unquote terrible person he believes himself to be. This is usually just self-preservation, but there are times where the self-preservation actually hurts the other people. For his design, he's completely covered up by clothes. The same with his long hair. It's kind of meant to, like, further covering up parts of himself. It's also because he is paranoid that people are after them, so he doesn't want to be literally found out. He's trying to change how he looks. He's trying to cover it up. It would be my idea that when he ran away, he had, like, shorter hair. That long hair is like to kind of separate himself from that person, make him less recognizable in a literal sense. When I do the full drawings of him, I tend to exaggerate that part of hair just for the fun. Especially in the monster designs, if I ever draw him, the hair's like going everywhere. It's fun. He was the first character I designed to have that sort of like creature design. Throughout the story, though, only 2 people have seen him in this state, and it's just himself and that one guy he found in the forest, Callum, which I will explain later. His design was heavily inspired by American cryptids like the jackrabbit, being like this creature who isn't really real, but it's kind of like a warning of bad things to come. And then the Wendigo, which a lot darker of a little creature, but in almost all the other creature designs, the characters stop being themselves, really. They're not really human anymore, but not for this one. Wendell here is still himself. He still acts like himself, but he stays as a kind of warning of doom because that's what he believes himself to be. He believes he's a bad person. He believes he brings harm to the people around him. And yeah. My reference I drew of him, of his monster design, is still one of my favorite things I've drawn in the last year. I don't know, it gives the type of vibes I was going for. I have a lot of trouble in the other ones, and I just like this one. Yeah. The second character I did for the art fight references was Callum, who I talked about in Wendell's part a little bit. This one was recently drawn, unlike Wendell's, and was like right before my body went kaput, and yeah, whatever. I did this one twice also because I just didn't like his first design. It wasn't right, and I still don't love parts of this, but yeah. The basics of Callum's character is that he can't take anything seriously. For him, he can't fully empathize with the reactions that other people have to life situations and his own actions. Callum's natural reaction to any sort of situation is really dull. And so, like, over time, to deal with the fact that he just doesn't react to things the way other people do, he starts to find the misfortune of himself and others ironically funny in a way. Because of that, he's always found it a little bit difficult to get along with other people. That was only like a little bit of issue for this character throughout high school. And although he was able to connect with some people through sports, he still had some distance between him and the people you would call his friends. But around like senior year, he would have dropped out because of a small scandal that happened within the sports team, and he didn't really have much other interest in school other than that. Through that dropping out, he lost all his relational connections and found it really, really difficult to build any new ones through his part-time job. This continues up to where the story begins. He gets frustrated with his life situation, still living with his parents, making minimum wage, and with no clear prospects or a path to a better situation. In a desperate attempt to make it somewhere, and after a closing shift at his work, he tries to steal money just to get a little bit ahead. Of course, he is immediately caught, but the judge he sees takes pity on him, and he just ends up with a settlement fee and community service rather than jail time. He was helping a group of volunteers clean up a community park as part of that service when he kind of just gets bored and walks off into the woods. Somewhere during that, a large part of a branch of like a dying tree falls off in the wind and it knocks him unconscious. That's where he is when the story starts. That's where Wendell finds him after he gets fired. With all the other characters, he gets along alright with Chrisley. He and Paula absolutely hate each other, and like he doesn't really have much of a relationship with the grandfather Abe. But the most important relationship for him in this story is with him and Wendell, and not really in a positive way. The man is basically just terrified of Wendell in a way he does not understand. This to him feels like a literal primal fear. You know, like something that automatically gives you the creeps. Like me with needles. He has like a phobia, but just of this one guy, a singular guy. I don't know, man. For Callum, this is because he finds control in his life in part through the negative reactions that other people have to him. Him not taking anything seriously is him taking back control of a situation that feels chaotic and that he doesn't know how to deal with. Other people, of course, don't respond well to that. But since that is what he's used to, he finds that somewhat comforting, somewhat empowering, because he knows how the people are going to react before he takes those actions. Wendell, however, has no reaction to him. For his part, Wendell ends up seeing Callum as sort of a chance to make up for people he's hurt in the past. So he starts acting incredibly and almost overly kind to him. But when he tries to do that, he interacts with Callum in the way he would interact with anyone else, which is pretty awkward, pretty nervous, pretty cagey, and it's just not something Callum knows how to read. Callum also ends up being the only person in the story that Wendell is really honest with, and that in itself just freaks Callum out. It does not go well, especially because partway through he starts seeing Wendell as a monster, and he just continues to be confused why no one else is terrified of this guy. But it's just like it's weird sort of dynamic that between these two characters that I like writing and drawing. It's funny. Oh yeah, so now for his actual design. Callum's design itself has probably changed the most over time. I have not been able to decide what he should look like. At the beginning, he basically just looked like a young teenager. Then I made a design where he had longer hair and more facial hair, and I like that one a lot. But just around that time, the game Mouthwashing came out, and he looked almost exactly like Jimmy from the game, and I could not deal with that. His design has been undefined for like a year since then. The only reason I finally landed on a design for his face here, at least, is because of Tomodachi Life. In the game, I gave him like a little scar or bruise on his face just on a whim, and that ended up as like a birthmark in a drawing I did of him in my sketchbook, and I kind of just ran with that. Other than that, I'm not super thrilled about the clothes he wears. He's not a character who would pick anything particularly like nice or stylized. He probably just like puts on gym style clothes in the morning and sticks with it. In my opinion though, the outfit I gave here is really ugly, and I don't like it. I'm just gonna remove the tank top probably because it just looks weird. There are two things that this design is supposed to signify for the character himself. A long time ago, I created a Pinterest board for his designs and kind of like drew a bunch of random things that inspired this character. One thing that I kept coming back to was sardines in a can. Also, fun fact, the first time I drew this character, his eyes were way too far on the sides of his head. It reminded me of a fish. So since then, he's been connected to a fish in my brain. And yeah, that's another big reason why this creature design is a fish. But the other part of this design that's more connected to him is like the little teeth I put everywhere. From the idea of like a laughing face being like bared teeth, there's little teeth everywhere in his skin as a monster. But But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for now about this weird, lame little guy. So, third character time. The third character I drew was just about when my body hated me. So, explaining that, my blood doesn't flow through my body correctly. And these past 2 weeks have been much worse than normal. Part of that means that my brain is foggy and I could barely move. And I basically just slept. This is Chrisley, the next character I tried to draw. The first time I tried to draw her, it was fine, but it was so much more stiff than I wanted to be. Along with that, it took like 12 times longer than it usually would. I need y'all to understand, like, the blood literally can't flow to my brain right. My brain is moving so much slower in that state than it would otherwise, and it's so incredibly frustrating. So I'm just doing like the bare minimum to exist, and yeah, it was not very nice. It was very miserable, I'm gonna be honest. Whatever. For the design itself, that first attempt, it wasn't bad, it was just stiff. Along with that, Chrisley is a character who I do change her design a lot, but not very much. And everything about her can change a little bit, except for her face. As many times I draw her, her face stays around the same. It's kind of recognizable for me. And this first attempt just didn't look like her, so I did it on again. Chrisley at her core is a sweet person. Everything she does is intended to be for the sake of other people and for the people she cares about, especially her family, like her twin Paula and her grandfather. But because of how anxious she becomes about them, she can become like controlling and cruel if she's not careful. Because all her actions are rooted in caring for her family, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get this character to acknowledge that she might have done something wrong. For example, we got the two characters, the twins, Chrisley and Paula. Growing up, they're kind of like joint at the hip, and Paula is basically Chrisley's shadow. This is in part just because of a more quiet personality, but also in part because of little things that Chrisley would do or say that would come across as demeaning to Paula if she did anything different. She also would say little things about Paula's weight, dressing, or lifestyle, or everything that kind of just puts her down in those little ways that kind of get underneath your skin. To Chrisley, she did all these things, all these little mentions, with the best intentions. But Paula grows up to resent Chrisley. At the point where the story begins, Paula's gone to college a couple of hours away from Chrisley. And Chrisley still does not understand the gap that she feels growing between her and her twin. She thinks it's just like a result of Paula going to college, meeting new friends, but it's something that's been growing for a long time. In a similar case with her grandfather, Abe is a lonely old man who wants to stay that way. He wants to stay independent. He took his granddaughters in out of obligation for a bad situation, and he did not expect him to try to take care of him back now that he is older. He, in a way, slightly appreciates Chrisley trying to help him, but the way she goes about it just ends up in a lot of like arguments. She's a very strong-minded person. She knows exactly what she thinks should happen, and it does not go well with him. To her, though, him firing that housekeeper feels like a spitting on her attempts to take care of him. And for Chrisley, that's like her entire personality. Now, during the story, she works in a nursing home and she works as a caretaker. That's what she's decided to spend her entire life dedicating to. So it's basically like the core of who she is, and she takes that very personally. As the story goes on, with the forced close contact with her three family members, it gives her no room to deny the rift that has actually grown between them. And that makes her incredibly anxious and cruel in a way she would not normally be. A big part of that is because Paula and Abe are both characters who are more like avoidant of like conflict, of actually explaining to her what's happening. So it just makes her even more freaked out. She's not willing to take it out on those two, and she ends up taking a lot of her anger out on Wendell, who is pretty much just a bystander in this, but he's there. He kind of represents her grandfather's pushing her away. Callum is the only one she actually talks to throughout the story. The relationship has potential to be deep, but it's really just surface level from both their sides. Callum to Chrisley is someone she can rant to, but that's about it. Callum, on the other hand, gets briefly enamored with her. Like, he likes her. but it's not really based on much of anything. He just thinks she looks nice and goes along with it. Pretty much, she doesn't think much of him. She's too busy spiraling about her relationship with her family and how she can fix it, while failing to recognize any of her actions that contributed to how they were in the first place. While Callum listens to her rants, he doesn't really do anything to help her in that case. Like I said, he's kind of avoidant when it comes to more serious situations, so yeah, that relationship doesn't go anywhere. For her, like, design itself, she's the only character who's really thinking about style in the situation at all. Styling, layering, and sewing clothes is something she really enjoys doing. She does it like thrift store clothes. She modifies it. I feel like that's a fun part of her character. The style she wears is fairly modest and not meant to stand out too much, but it's still meant to give that little bit of individuality in a quieter way. For her design, I use a lot of yellow, browns, and oranges because I always draw her with like the idea of a monarch butterfly in mind. She even has little butterfly earrings on, which has been a staple of her characters for like a year or so. My reason behind that is not the happiest reason, but for her, I've always used butterflies to symbolize change, specifically her refusal to let change happen. Throughout the story, she's always surrounded by bugs, caterpillars, butterflies specifically. The more anxious she gets, the more she spirals, and the more they appear. That takes me straight to the sketch I did of her creature design. It's very rough, so don't mind that. Like I said, it's just a sketch, but the only real inspiration for that design is, as I said, her unwillingness to change, symbolized by a monarch butterfly. My idea is that whenever she appears like that, there are butterflies swarming around her, pretty much. I did a little animation for a profile icon on ArtPipe, and it has like a little orange butterfly on her face, and another one crawling up her shirt, even in her normal design. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about her. I ran out of steam fully to design her grandmother, so we're just gonna head to the last character I designed for this video, Chrisley's twin, Paula Vargas. Yeah, so I would say I finished, but I suddenly died while drawing them. I did this design twice. So the first time, I suddenly came down with a massive migraine and tried to keep doing the drawing with like the light all the way down with a very like almost black background. When I finished it the next day, I looked at it and the entire thing was crooked. So I deleted that entire. I didn't even keep a time lapse for that. I was able to complete her normal design the next day, fairly well. I can talk about that, but when I went to do the monster one, let me. I'll just show you. Uh-huh. So it was shapes and colors. Yeah. So, my heart suddenly started beating too hard, and well, I lay down for a couple of hours, and then I went to a chair and sat upside down in it to try to get the blood back to my head, and then I went to sleep. And in between that time, I drew this in like 10 seconds, and yeah. So she just has a normal design. I did not finish it. And the time lapse is like 1 minute, so I will talk longer than the design takes to draw probably, so you get to see the animation process for Chrisley's icon after that's done. Yeah, it's just not been my month. Anyways, so Paula is a character who keeps resentment inside her until she can't anymore. Also, for some clarity, her pronouns are she, they, so I will be switching back and forth between them. Anyways, growing up, they were quiet, keeping all of the thoughts to themselves, and they felt miserable with their situation. There's like all these resentments, all these different situations that happened, and Chrisley doesn't really remember them. And Paula just doesn't tell her. It's not like an intentionally cruel thing, but it's my idea that as Paula gets more confident and comfortable in who they are, they start to mess with Chrisley in like little ways that they might not have been able to do before. I added a little doodle in the corner that they do like to rage bait Chrisley a little bit. But to Chris, it feels a lot more serious than just like little jokes or little jabs. Those jokes are not mean or cruel at first, but as time goes on and Chrisley gets more upset and unstable, Paula stays the exact same in her attitudes toward her. She, for one, has become very apathetic as a coping mechanism. It's very similar to Callum and his attitudes towards everything, but the two of them absolutely despise each other. Paula, as a person, has a little bit of a superiority complex. She thinks a lot, and in her thinking, she started to think that she's a little bit better than the people around her sometimes. It's not like I mentioned in Chrisley's section that Chrisley says things about the way Paula looks. I chose to make her a little bit heavier than Chrisley on purpose. She is someone who originally does not care about her weight. This is just kind of she just lets her body do what it does, right? She's not caring about it. She's not unhealthy. She's not in a way that's like hurting her. But Chrisley will continuously say like little things, little jabs, and little like unwanted tips on how she can get healthier or skinnier or whatever that stuff, and it gets under Paula's skin bad. So Paula, in that way, is now determined to stay exactly that weight for as long as possible, just to resent her sister. Like little things like that. They will respond to these jobs in little defiances, which can be a sign of a strong character, but it's not very good at demonstrating actually how those things make them feel. It's kind of more of a deflection there, and that's like a case where it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter what their weight is. That's something personal. But there's other cases throughout the story that are more serious that actually do harm Chrisley. I would say more about Paula because I love this character a lot, but for the sake that I still have to finish her icon profile, and I didn't end up getting the creature design done because I was dead on the floor. That's all for now. I said at the beginning that I have been doing like a character design challenge for the summer, and that's gonna have to change because to something I just do every once in a while randomly, if not just summer, because of the last 2 weeks. And at the beginning of July, I will be doing art fight, and I'll be incredibly busy in real life. So I will have lost an entire month of time to work on that. And yeah. Either way, even if this month has been very scuffed for me, I hope y'all enjoyed the video at least. I like drawing these guys. I like ranting about these guys. And I am very excited for Art Fight. And I hope my rambling was entertaining enough. Join me on Art Fight if you want to. My profile will be in the description, and that might be fun. Yeah! I realized I'd never explained what Art Fight was, but I'm assuming if someone clicked on this video, if they know. If you don't, like, it was art trading. People draw each other's characters, and just for July, and it's fun. Yeah, that's it. If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. Hopefully my doctor will change back my meds soon, and I can get back to doing things normally. Yeah. Thank you for watching.